The system does not need to imprison you if it can teach you to reach for the cage yourself. You think you are choosing it. The small black screen, the cold light in the morning, the thumb moving before the mind has even formed a question. But you are not just distracted. You are living inside a system that has learned how to make your own attention feel like freedom. Stay with that long enough, and the problem changes shape. Constant connection starts to look less like freedom and more like obedience with better design. I started noticing something in quiet rooms. People did not touch their phones only when they had nothing to do. They touched them when something inside them was about to become audible. That is the part that disturbs me. The screen does not only watch you, it has taught you to watch yourself for it. So stay with the moment before the reach. That is where this video begins. Not with an argument against technology, but with the small silence you keep escaping. If you want more essays like this, subscribe. And if this already feels too close, leave a like before we go further. I remember sitting in a silent room once. No crisis, no argument, no danger. Just a room full of people waiting for something to begin. And within a few seconds, almost every hand moved in the same direction. Not to the heart, not to the face, not to the window, to the phone. It was almost religious. A small ritual of escape performed without embarrassment, without discussion, without anyone needing to explain it. One man checked a message he did not answer. A woman opened an app, stared at nothing, closed it, then opened it again. Someone else unlocked the screen, looked confused for half a second, and kept scrolling anyway. That was the part I could not stop watching. Because nobody looked happy. They looked relieved. As if silence had become a pressure in the room, and the screen was the valve. You see this everywhere now. At red lights, in elevators, in beds, in bathrooms, in the 2 seconds before a meeting starts, in the 3 seconds after a conversation ends, in the dead space between one thought and the next. The modern hand reaches for the phone the way an older prisoner might reach for the wall of his cell. Not because the wall is interesting, because it proves where he is. And I began to wonder whether the most revealing gesture of our time was not the scroll, or the post, or the message. It was the reach, that tiny movement before thought. The easy answer is distraction. But distraction is too small a word for something people now defend like oxygen. And this is where the usual explanation begins. People say the phone is addictive. They say social media steals attention. Notifications break concentration. Algorithms learn your habits. The infinite scroll keeps your thumb moving because the next image might be the one that gives you something. A laugh, a message, a sign that you still exist somewhere in someone else's mind. And all of that is true enough. It would be foolish to pretend these systems are neutral. They are designed around attention. They measure what keeps you looking. They learn what makes you come back. They do not need to know your soul to predict your next gesture. But that explanation lets you stay too innocent. It gives you a villain outside yourself. The app did it. The algorithm did it. The company did it. The screen stole your life while you were just standing there, pure and helpless, with a glowing rectangle in your hand. I don't trust that story. Not because the system is harmless. Because the story is too clean. If the phone only distracted you, you would hate it more honestly. You would throw it across the room the way a man throws away something that insults him. But you protect it. You sleep beside it. You panic when you cannot find it. You say you need it for work, for family, for safety, for being informed, for staying connected. Some of those reasons are real. That is what makes the cage elegant. A prison made only of lies is easy to recognize. A prison made of useful things is much harder to hate. So I stopped asking what the screen does to you. I started asking something uglier. What are you trying not to feel when the screen appears? And that question led to the first clue. The first clue is interruption. Not the loud kind. Not the dramatic kind that ruins your day and gives you a story to tell. I mean the small interruption that rescues you from yourself. A thought starts to form, and before it can become clear, your hand moves. A feeling rises, and before it can name itself, the screen lights up. You stand in a kitchen for 5 seconds with nothing to do, and the emptiness feels wrong. So you check. Not because there is something to check, because checking gives your mind a place to hide. That is what most people miss. The phone does not always tempt you with pleasure. Sometimes it protects you from presence. It interrupts the moment before honesty arrives. And that moment is dangerous. Because if you do not touch the screen, you may have to notice that you are tired, or lonely, or angry, or afraid of the next thing you promised yourself you would finally do. You may have to feel the dull pressure of a life that has become too crowded with noise to hear its own warning signals. So the interruption feels merciful. A notification saves you from a thought. A scroll saves you from a question. A message saves you from the strange weight of being alone in your own head. This is why telling someone to just put the phone away often fails. The phone is more than an object in the hand. It is a door. And for many people, it is the fastest door out of the room they are actually in. But interruption alone does not explain why people defend the thing that weakens them. Relief explains why you reach for it. It does not explain why you become available to it. That is the second clue. And it is harder to admit. Before we go to that second clue, I want to say this plainly. Work like this takes time because it cannot be produced as a little machine of recycled conclusions. If this channel has given language to something you felt, but could not name, you can support the Psyche through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. Think of it as patronage for independent thought. Not entertainment, not noise, not another fast opinion designed to vanish by tomorrow morning. Just support for essays that take the ordinary things modern life normalizes and hold them still long enough to ask what they are doing to the mind. If you cannot support it, stay. That matters too. But if you can, the link is there. Now we go back to the investigation. Because the second clue is more uncomfortable than interruption. It is the moment you stop merely using the system and start making yourself available to it. Availability sounds harmless, almost responsible. You answer quickly. You keep the phone close. You leave the notifications on because someone might need you. Your boss might ask something. Your family might worry. A friend might think you are ignoring him. So you become reachable. Then reachable becomes normal. Then normal becomes expected. And after a while, expected begins to feel like identity. This is where the old idea of the Panopticon becomes useful. Jeremy Bentham imagined a prison where the inmate could be watched at any moment without knowing exactly when the watching was happening. Later, Michel Foucault used that image to think about discipline. The deeper point was that the possibility of being watched teaches the prisoner to watch himself. Now bring that into the pocket. Read receipts, typing bubbles, online status, last seen, location sharing, response time, work messages after dinner, little numbers on icons, little red circles that make your nervous system feel accused. Nobody has to stand over you. The tower is in your hand. And the strange thing is that you do not experience this as a tower. You experience it as connection. You say, I am just being responsive. You say, I am staying informed. You say, this is how work is now. I understand that. Some of it is true. A man with no phone in modern life is not automatically free. Sometimes he is just unreachable in a world that punishes absence. But I want you to notice the cost. You begin to carry an invisible audience inside your head. Before you rest, you check whether someone needs you. Before you think, you check whether something changed. Before you choose silence, you ask whether silence will be misread. That is availability. And availability is more intimate than distraction. Distraction takes your attention for a moment. Availability trains you to keep the door open. Now we have interruption. We have availability. But we still have not touched the part that makes the cage feel like freedom. The part that makes the cage feel like freedom is convenience. That sounds too simple. It is not. Convenience is the softest form of control because it does not feel like control while it is happening. It feels like relief. It feels like efficiency. It feels like finally having the world close enough to touch. This is why the digital Panopticon is different from the old image of the tower. In the old prison, the prisoner knows he is trapped. He may not know when he is being watched, but he knows the walls are walls. In the digital version, the wall comes with a beautiful interface. It wakes you up, it guides you, it entertains you, it stores your memory, it pays your bills. It tells you where to go, what you missed, who liked you, who ignored you, what crisis happened, what trend matters, what stranger is winning, what task is late, what desire you should borrow for the next 10 minutes. And because it helps you, you stop asking what it costs. That is the elegance. The system does not need to imprison you if it can teach you to reach for the cage yourself. No guard has to drag your attention away. You bring it. No tower has to force you to be visible. You volunteer. No one has to command you to interrupt your own life. You do it whenever life becomes too quiet. Shoshana Zuboff writes about a world where human behavior becomes something to predict, shape, and sell. Byung-Chul Han warns about forms of power that do not feel like oppression because they move through freedom, choice, and self-expression. I do not bring those names here to decorate the argument. I bring them because they help us see the most uncomfortable thing. The system works better when you can honestly say, I wanted this. You wanted the connection. You wanted the speed. You wanted the escape. You wanted the small mercy of never having to sit inside an unanswered feeling for too long. And that is why the cage does not feel like a cage. It opens every time you touch it. So if this is true, then this is no longer only about technology. It is about the parts of yourself you keep outsourcing to the machine. You outsource your morning first. Before your eyes have adjusted to the room, the phone tells you what to care about. A message, a headline, a number, a face, a problem that did not exist in your nervous system 10 seconds ago. You have not even asked yourself how you slept. Already, the world has entered. Then you outsource your attention. You sit down to work, and one small sound breaks the line of thought. You look for 3 seconds, maybe 5. Then you return to the task with a mind that has to rebuild the bridge it was walking on. Do that enough times, and you stop trusting yourself to remain with anything. An idea, a book, a difficult sentence, a quiet meal, a human face speaking slowly. Everything starts to feel too slow because the machine has trained you to expect life in fragments. Then you outsource your boundaries. A work message comes at night, and you answer because you do not want to seem careless. You call it responsibility. Sometimes it is. But sometimes responsibility is the word fear uses when it wants to sound adult. You outsource rest. You lie in bed and scroll because you are tired, but when you finally stop, you are not restored. You are only emptier, with more images inside you and less room for your own life. You outsource connection. You watch other people perform a life, and you call it staying in touch. But often you are not connecting. You are comparing. You are collecting evidence that someone else is living with more intensity, more beauty, more certainty. And quietly, without a dramatic collapse, your inner life becomes outsourced too. Your boredom needs a screen. Your loneliness needs a feed. Your anxiety needs a refresh. Your silence needs permission. So the practical question is not, how do I quit technology? That is too crude. The question is, where does the machine enter before you have chosen to let it in? But be careful. Even awareness can become another costume if you use it to feel superior instead of honest. This is where people often take the wrong exit. They hear this and decide the answer is to hate the machine. To hate the platforms. To hate everyone still scrolling, posting, replying, checking, performing. That is too easy. And it is also another form of escape. Because if the whole problem is the system, then you never have to look at the quiet contract you keep signing with it. Blaming the system can become another cage. A smarter one, maybe, but still a cage. I am not telling you the platforms are innocent. They are not. A great deal of modern digital life is designed to catch attention before attention can defend itself. But innocence is not the question. The question is what you do with the moment after you see it. Some people turn that moment into paranoia. They start seeing a conspiracy behind every screen, every app, every notification, as if fear itself were proof of intelligence. It is not. Some people turn it into superiority. They delete one app and begin to look down on everyone who still has it, as if contempt were freedom. It is not. Some people turn it into another productivity project. They install trackers, blockers, systems, routines, and rules, then spend the next month managing their liberation like another dashboard. That can become its own little prison too. The point is not to hate the machine. The point is to stop handing it the parts of your life you are too afraid to hold. Your boredom, your silence, your unmade decision, your fear of being unreachable, your fear of being forgotten. So do not turn this into theater. Do not make a new identity out of being above distraction. The only question that matters now is smaller and more difficult. What do you do in the first few seconds before the reach? Do not begin with a grand decision. Begin with 10 seconds. The next time your hand moves toward the phone for no clear reason, stop. Not forever. 10 seconds. Let the hand remain where it is. Let the room return. Let the silence become slightly awkward. Then ask one question. What was I about to avoid? Do not answer too quickly. The first answer will probably be respectable. I need to check something. I might have missed a message. I should make sure nothing happened. Maybe. But stay a little longer. Under that answer, there may be another one. I do not want to feel tired. I do not want to notice that I am alone. I do not want to start the work. I do not want to sit with the fact that nobody needs me right now. That is where the investigation becomes personal. Not in a dramatic confession. In a gesture so small, no one else will ever see it. You do not recover attention by declaring war on the phone. You begin by refusing to let the phone answer questions you have not even had the courage to hear. That is not a detox. It is a confrontation. And it will feel uncomfortable because the silence you keep escaping has been waiting with information. So the next time you reach for the screen, do not make yourself pure. Do not make yourself impressive. Just pause long enough to see what part of you is asking to disappear. That is where the cage begins. Not in the device, in the reach. If that question found something in you, do not turn it into a performance. Write the real answer in the comments. What is the first thing you reach for your phone to avoid feeling? Not the polished answer. The honest one. Someone else will read it and recognize himself. That is how a channel like this becomes more than a sequence of videos. It becomes a room where people stop pretending for a few seconds. And if you want to help keep that room independent, you can support the Psyche through Buy Me a Coffee in the description. This is for people who still believe serious thought deserves time, silence, and a place outside the machinery of constant distraction. No pressure. Just patronage, if the work is worth keeping alive. And if you stay with the 10 seconds before the reach, you may notice something strange. The cage does not disappear. But for the first time, you can feel your hand moving toward it. And that is where freedom starts to become visible.